Our goal is to sketch a graph of this, and how we're going to do that is we're going to draw two different triangles that are hopefully going to help us see what our output's going to be when our input is at its lower limit and its upper limit, like as small as it can be, as big as it can be. So the first thing we should notice is that this is arc cos, and the input of arc cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. So since x is the hypotenuse, x must be greater than or equal to 9 so that it's at least as big as the adjacent side. And then other than that, it's going to go to infinity. It's going to be as big as it wants to be. So when we draw our two triangles, we should draw one where the adjacent side and the hypotenuse are both about 9. So here's our adjacent side, it's 9. Our hypotenuse, I'll make it even smaller. Okay, so we'll make it our oh my gosh, this is really hard to draw, I'm not going to lie. Okay, we'll just do our best here. Okay, pretend those are connecting. So we're saying our hypotenuse is about 9, all right? And then now let's draw one where our hypotenuse is really long. Okay, so that's a big hypotenuse, so big that 9, which used to look like that, now looks really small. And what happens? Well, we have a bigger angle. So remember, the output of arc cosine is an angle. We input the adjacent over hypotenuse ratio, and the output is the reference angle that will give us that ratio. So what we should see is that when the hypotenuse is really close to 9, necessarily that reference angle is really small. But as that hypotenuse gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the reference angles or the adjacent side stays fixed at 9, that hypotenuse is going to keep swinging up further and further and further and further, making a theta that's going to approach 90 degrees. And in this case, theta is approaching 0 degrees. So what we have graphically is that our graph must start at x equals 9, because that's as small as the hypotenuse can be. When the hypotenuse is equal to 9, then our reference angle is just going to be 0, so we're starting at 9, 0. And then what happens is, we'll just call this 90 degrees right here. What happens is, as the hypotenuse gets longer and longer, it's just going to asymptotically approach a reference angle of 90 degrees. So there is our graph.